Hi everyone. In this episode we're going to go over the Lightning Strikes update number 2, so everything you need to know about this update coming up next. In this update, the Battlefield 5 Tides of War Chapter 2 Lightning Strikes, we get to know the Sturmgeschutz IV vehicle and try out the improved PANZERSTORM map, which is introduced in this update. So let's get into it. We'll start with the new vehicle description that they've given us for the Sturmgeschutz IV. It says the Stug 4's low silhouette makes it great for ambush tactics, and the turretless design makes it less vulnerable to enemy tanks. Not having a turret is a bit of a drawback, of course. Stug 4 drivers have to align the hull of their tank in the direction of the enemy in order to overcome the limited movement of their main cannon. The Stug 4 is well equipped for self-defense, having both a top gunner position and a remotely controlled machine gun turret that can be operated by a passenger safely from within the tank. The specialization tree for the Stug 4 provides further options for improving the survivability and the anti-infantry capabilities of the tank, for those drivers who want to get into the thick of the action. Or, alternatively, drivers might want to go for a longer barrel and armor-piercing shells to achieve much improved shell velocity and long-distance anti-tank capabilities. So, when do we get an unlock for the Sturmgeschutz IV? Is it going to be with this update? No, that's a misconception. It's going to be coming probably February 14th with week 3 of Tides of War. So that's probably when we'll get the tank. Right now, this is just an introduction to it, and I know a lot of people were thinking that it's going to be coming out with the update. That's not the case, so don't be disappointed when that does not happen. Now, let's get into the rest of the update and continue on. There are quite a few updates to the practice range. I'm not going to go into that because I don't really use that. Let's go into the more important things, which, for example, are the PANZERSTORM map updates. I'm quickly going to go over this and cover just the key points for you guys. I'm not going to read through it all, so you get a quick overview of what's important. Alright, so let's start with point F. They've added additional buildings to the Swine farm and made it basically 4 times bigger. So these buildings should bring additional cover to infantry and tanks. They also added an oak alley along the road between G and D to make it easier for infantry to navigate in that previously open space. A common criticism that they addressed in this update is infantry players felt they were too exposed, so they've basically given it the Eras treatment, which means that there will be a lot more trenches for you to crawl through and run along to be hidden. So what they've done is they've added things like extra trees along A to D to help with people running through there and avoid the tanks. They've also added ladders to the barn on D if you want to take a peek out onto the fields. Some of the changes should mirror gameplay improvements, so they achieved that by adding the Oak Valley, like we discussed above, to between D and G. The paths between D and E offered no real lanes or good cover, and basically looking at the data, what they've done is they've tried to improve on what they've already done in the past and added soft cover and height changes in the terrain to help the infantry move a little better and get through the points and between the points a little easier. So the other area they've changed is B and C. They've basically been integrated into the tank defense line. This will lead to more infantry cover between these points and hopefully extend the strong infantry movement from E, D, C, and B. So what they've also done is increase the flight ceilings. So now you can basically fly higher and dive from higher up. They've added more fortifications to help the infantry build up a stronger foothold against advancing tanks. That's essentially all the changes that I want to go over for the PANZERSTORM map. Feel free to check it out tomorrow. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of it. I think these are probably all going to be really good changes for the map, and it will make infantry play a lot more viable on that map. As it stands right now, it is pretty exposed, so I'm glad that they're taking our feedback and making it better. Now let's move on to soldier fixes and tweaks. This is a big one. Footsteps. The volume attenuation of third-person footsteps over distance has been increased. It is now at a point between the original shift value and the previous update. At 25 meters from the player, the footstep volume will now drop to 28%, or an 11 decibel drop, of the volume heard when compared to someone next to the player. This compares with a previous update value of 71%, which was only a 3 decibel drop, and an original ship value of 10%, which was a 20 decibel drop. So basically they've increased it a lot, or rather they've reduced the sound a lot, and it should make for footstep sounds being a lot better for us. And we shouldn't be hearing 500 people running around right next to us. It should be more like it used to be, and I honestly think this might be the perfect medium, and this will make it sound a lot better, and we will be able to hunt down people a lot easier, even though it won't make it super easy and super annoying to hear footsteps. Transitioning to prone is no longer possible if there is not enough space to fit the player. This means that players will no longer attempt to go prone if there isn't enough space to begin with. The feature is currently missing messaging that will come into a later patch. This is what I'm really looking forward to. There's been way too many instances where I've tried to go prone and I've just kept bouncing back up. I'm sure some of you have experienced that as well, so this is a welcome fix. Another one that they've done is improve tracking of enemy soldiers by reducing the leaning on turns and sharp direction changes animation. This will keep the soldier's upper body steadier and bring more consistency to combat, mostly with rifles and pistol poses. So those are the main changes that I wanted to go over for that particular part of the patch. Vehicles, they made a lot of changes to Stukas and Spitfires, which is great, and I don't really care about that because I hate those vehicles. I know a lot of you guys love them, but read the patch notes. Basically, a lot of the bugs have been fixed, and now we'll move on to a substantial system improvement for AA behavior, because this is what I do care about, because I love AA and I hate planes, especially the Stuka right now. I hate the Stuka. So a substantial system improvement in AA behavior has been made to make the experience for shooting at airplanes more consistent. Players should notice that shells that detonate in proximity to an airplane do damage more consistently, and also that shots that are closer to the target do more damage than shots that are further from the target. This is especially obvious when planes are flying directly at or away from an AA, with higher damage for flying at an AA and lower when trying to escape an AA. We have adjusted damage values on all AA guns to compensate for this improvement, and the different kinds of AA guns should now be clearer choices. Fast-firing AA is now better against highly maneuverable small targets like fighters. Slow-firing AA is now better against larger targets like bombers, and they've also tweaked the projectile firing position on all stationary and towable AA guns, which no longer causes players to fire into sandbags or into the ground when aiming low. This is another big issue for me. So they've made some changes to weapons, gadgets, and specializations. So aiming down sights with all weapons and all sights has been improved to better reflect the correct point of aim when strafing and walking. All rifles, SMGs, LMGs, and shotguns now have improved visual stability across all scopes, and firing a first shot will be much more accurate. So happy about this. There have been so many instances where I've taken a shot with my sniper and missed because I'm assuming this was the issue. Yeah, because I don't miss my shots. Like, no one misses their shots, right, guys? Alright, on to the next bit of interesting stuff. I didn't really go into maps or modes because I don't really think that's that important. It's a pretty small section, not too much to go on there other than like an exploit on aerodrome has been fixed. Deploy point is no longer available, bug has been fixed. Let's go into PANZERSTORM specific fixes and changes. So here, I've had issues where I've been sitting behind a bush and trying to shoot, and it blocks my shot, and nothing goes through. So some of these bushes are no longer bulletproof, so that's great. The F-Flag Swine Farm got a complete rework like we discussed above. So they've also fixed a lot of things on UI, HUD, options, and assignments. They didn't really put the assignment tracking or the ability to change assignments while in-game in yet, but that will likely be coming at a later date. So what is in this update? So they've added things like a button for taking screenshots. The UI for health now turns yellow when you're healing, so you know how much you're healing. The bleed out circle is now properly showing the state of down soldiers so that medics can once again prioritize who to revive. Sanitata. That's what they have in here. I couldn't really do the screen because it's late. But anyways, let's go on. They've also fixed the Tides of War text, as well as fixing an issue with the background in the game weapon customization screen was causing issues, especially on Fjell or Narvik, where you couldn't really see the text. So they say they've fixed that in this update. So we'll see that when it goes live. They've also done some things with Netcode and UI improvements. So Hud Aim Lead Indicator has been implemented. This will help players understand when and how much they need to lead their shot. Should they have bad ping, it currently appears once players have a higher ping than 162. They've also improved the damage rounding on the HUD health counter to avoid misleading situations where health can be shown as 0, or the rounding could lead to players to believe that they could be hit by more damage when they realistically can't, and they die. I'm assuming this is the time to death slight improvement. They've also fixed some stability issues, PC-specific improvements. AMD GPUs are a little better now, and players should no longer have 20 seconds of blank screen or black screen, and should be loading cinematics faster. Chat is once again available for Xbox One and PS4, so get to spamming your chat wheels and have some fun. Other than that, there's a lot of other changes. I didn't really want to go into them because the patch notes are pretty long. You guys can actually review them yourself. I'll include the link in the description below. And enjoy this patch. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to comment about what your favorite improvement or change in this patch is. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.